Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, and I believe that the right book at the right time can change lives, and that all readers should read children's literature, especially adults. So that's what we do here on the KidLit Love podcast. We celebrate all things children's literature: picture books, early readers, middle grade, and young adult novels for readers of all ages. In each episode, we'll talk with children's literature authors and discuss their books, their hopes, their dreams for readers, their writing process, and much, much more. Whether you're an adult reading to their inner child or connecting the young readers in your life with fantastic books, you've come to the right place. So grab a notebook to build your TBR, and let's get to today's episode of KidLit Love. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the KidLit Love podcast. I'm Stephanie Affinito, your KidLit loving host, inviting you back to another bookish conversation with a children's literature author. Today, I'm talking with Bill Wood. Bill is a former bookseller turned bookish TikTok sensation, and he's here today to talk about his debut young adult novel, Let's Split Up. This book has already taken the UK by storm, and it's poised to do the same in the US. This electrifying tale of four friends determined to hunt the killer, ravaging their idyllic small town, will have you on the edge of your seat like it did me. It's Scream meets Scooby-Doo, and I can't wait to talk to him about it, so we're going to get right to the episode. Bill, welcome to KidLit Love. I am so glad you're here today.
That was a lovely roundup. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. I think my heart might still be beating a little too quickly after
Yes.
reading your book. There's so much that I cannot wait to talk about. But before we do, I would love to know your journey here. We've got bookseller, we've got
Mhm.
TikToker, we've got author. Tell us all the things. How did you get here today to all of this going on in the book world for you?
I mean, I've written for as long as I remember. I remember like stapling together pieces of paper to make my own stories when I was younger. Then when I was in high school, I annoyingly fell into that sort of like reading isn't cool thing. So I didn't read for a couple years, which I regret so much nowadays. But then I got back into it during probably like the tail end of high school, and then when I was trying to work out what I wanted to do with my life, being an author was always like my main thing. It's always the thing I went back to, but I was also trying to be realistic.
Right.
Um, so I ended up going to university. I did film and screenwriting, which I love. It was still telling my stories. And then after I finished university, I became a bookseller while I was trying to do the writing thing, and I started my TikTok probably a similar-ish time, maybe a bit for actually. And then yeah, I self-published a little bit in 2022. That didn't really work out for me. But then Let's Split Up came about. I started writing that in like 2021, and then it got picked up right at the beginning of 2024, actually. And then the rest is history.
The rest is history. You've already been, your book has been released. It has been really well received over in the UK, and now you get to celebrate, and we get to launch it over in the US, which is exciting.
Yeah, definitely.
So, tell us a little bit about this book. I joked in, well, I don't think it's a joke. I think it's true, and I think it's in your materials too. It's Scooby-Doo meets Scream for a couple
Yeah.
of different reasons. I personally think it may be more Scream than Scooby-Doo. So, Bill, I was the girl that has never, ever, ever gotten through a full Scream movie. I just run.
Okay.
I did read your whole book though, and there is a scene that made me want to close and run and brought me back to my teenage years. Uh, but even for this person that kind of shies away from those kinds of movies, I promise you, I read your book in one sitting. I ignored
Oh, thank
my
you.
kids, I ignored my dishes. It is truly riveting to the page. Like the way that you have it formatted with the four friends and the points of view, it's fantastic. It's
Oh,
fantastic.
thank
And
you.
I'm so excited to be able to share it, but I should stop talking. I want you to tell listeners what this book is about without,
Mhm.
spoilers, of course, and the inspiration behind it and all of the different cool elements that seem to be wrapped up in it.
Yeah, I mean, So Let's Split Up is basically, I guess, my ode to loads of things I grew up with. Like I was a true Scooby-Doo kid. I grew up with it. I absolutely loved it. I watched so many different iterations of it. And then I have a little brother who's 12 years younger than me, so I got to relive that again with him, watch newer iterations. So it's always been something that I've just really, really just loved. And I keep saying that Scooby-Doo kind of feels like an intro to horror. Um, and it really does feel like that to me. But yeah, Let's Split Up is basically four friends, well, three friends and the new girl, Buffy, who's a little bit suspicious. She's got some secrets of her own, and they're in this small Californian town when the high school's it couple gets murdered on this manor on the edge of town, which is supposedly haunted by the guy who died there like 100 years previously. Um, and it's got some scares, it's got some fun, it's got some romance, and yeah, I mean, I keep saying it, but it kind of does feel like the book of my heart because it's such like a culmination of everything I love. As I said, the Scooby-Doo, and then it ended up becoming like a ode as well to 90s horror, which
Mhm.
really grew up with as well because I love how it has that sort of meta vibe to it, and then a lot of those films are also kind of comedic, so I wanted to try and implement that. Um, but yeah, that's Let's Split Up in a nutshell.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned all of those things because it is a book that could scare, right? We could consider it this horror kind of book, but there is this story of friendship. There is
Mhm,
this thread of romance. There is this thread of just fun and snark and realness that happens between the characters. So
mhm.
even if you are a reader or a viewer who might shy away from some of that scary, so to speak, content, there really is so much more in this book to sink into and wrap your head around. And I want listeners to know that because as someone who may have shied away from books like this because she just gets so scared so quickly, there's such richness in this book in addition to that that I think would hook readers who might initially overlook it by looking at what the content or the creepy looking cover might look like.
Yeah.
There's something for every reader in here that I think they will find. So I'm really glad you mentioned those different threads because they're all so equally important, I think, throughout the story.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the first ever book event I did for Let's Split Up last July, so before it came out in the UK, someone asked us like, "What do you want readers to take away from this?" And obviously, it's my first book event. I don't really know what I'm supposed to say, and I literally said the power of friendship. And you know what? I kind of stand by that.
Yes.
It does feel like a book where a core group of friends is kind of at its core. Without it, I don't think it would really be the same at all.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about those friends. Actually, you mentioned there are three friends that have been friends.
Hmm.
And then there's Buffy, who is the new girl, and we don't really know so much about, but we know she's very perceptive. And she
Yes.
nails these three friends' personalities. And I really got a kick out of how different they all were, yet
Mhm.
the threads that bound them together. So I'd love for you to talk a minute about the characters they will meet and not only meet them, but they're going to get their perspective because each chapter kind of bounce around from the character's
Yeah.
point of view. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, I love multi POV. So
Me
if you
too.
don't know, Let's Split Up is in multi POV. I think it's just so interesting, especially if you're in first person, to really get inside those
Yeah.
characters' heads. And but obviously, it's a bit of a challenge trying to make everyone feel different enough. But I what I really wanted to do with Let's Split Up is to try and like harken back to think like old teen movies where you have the really stereotypical the jock, the
Yeah.
nerd, the cheerleader, all that sort of stuff. But then
Scooby
I also
Doo.
kind of yeah. I also want to kind of like subvert it a little bit. So like, yeah, Cam is the jock, but he also knows that he's the jock and he doesn't play into it.
Yeah.
Um, and obviously they've all got their own little quirks. But yeah, Cam, he's I think from what I hear, loads of people's favorite character. He's just kind of a charmer. He's just really I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. He's, yeah, as I said, like the jock, but he's a lot more than that. Jonesy's kind of the shy one. He's a bit more hesitant with new people, and I think he's the one I kind of relate with the most. Amber's probably the maternal one of the group. She's very, very protective, but also she wants to make sure everyone's safe. And
Yeah.
she wants to push things along, and then Buffy, she's the wild card. She's the new girl. People don't know if to trust her, and she's definitely got some secrets of her own up her
Mhm.
sleeve.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just love the interactions between them. They're very real. They are, you know, they're dealing with something really big going on
Yes.
in their town, but they're also, just have that back and forth banter that
Mm,
they're still able to maintain. It's just so relatable. Um, because of that, I really, if I had to pick a favorite, I've got to say I probably would say Cam too. And I
hmm
just feel like because I got into his head the most,
Yeah.
maybe. Um, but there's now, and I can't say why, but that maternal figure who wants everybody to be okay has a very special place in my heart now at the end of the story.
Yeah.
Um, and so does Buff. They all do. They all do.
hmm
I think they all have the ability to find the reader that needs them, that needs to match up with them or to learn from them. And
hmm
that interaction between them all really was just so. I want to say it was special in relation to
Oh.
a book that had so much other stuff that we could focus on. That friendship
hmm
is just so front and central.
Oh, I'm so glad that you pointed that out. That's so lovely to hear. I will say, I think like dialogue for me has always been one of my strong suits, and I think that's from doing like screenwriting, because obviously you think of a script, it's like 90% dialogue, so that's the
Right.
thing you really focus on. And since I've graduated, um, I've gone and spoken back to like my previous tutors and lecturers, and I'm just like, thank you, because like I feel like you kind of helped me become a better writer. But even though they're completely different formats, they kind of intertwine a lot more than I think people think.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, your background makes your ability to have the reader imagine that scene in their head because that's
Yeah.
exactly what I was doing. That's why I didn't put it down. I really truly read it in a single sitting. So I want to talk about the what I call it, the scare factor or the
Mhm.
mystery side of it of what's going on. How did you kind of conceptualize what that trajectory would be of this haunted ghoul and the things that are happening? You know, every time I read, I'm always trying to make sense of a book, especially when there's
Yes.
a mystery, and I didn't figure this out. So
Oh, great.
it keeps going, I wonder, and going back and forth. And I'm always so amazed by people who really can think forward like that and know what's going to happen. I would love to know how that unfolded for you and if you knew all along how it was going to turn out, or are you the kind of writer where you figure that out in the process of writing what's ultimately going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, my process since getting a book deal and doing the sequel is a lot different because people have to sign off on things. But with this book, I started writing it without a plan. So it like the culprit in the end came in the first like 20% of writing it. And then I had to work out, okay, why would they do this? So I had to go back and add that in afterwards. Um, but yeah, my process now is completely different. But back then it was just like, I'll throw this at the wall, see if it sticks. If it doesn't, I'll go back and add the clues in afterwards. And that's what I had to do for Let's Split Up. And then we jigged some stuff around during editing. But I think that's what I love about mysteries, because I watched a video recently, and I think it was like Agatha Christie's method, where sometimes she would go into a book and change who the culprit is halfway through to throw off the reader even more. I was like, gosh, I need to try that. That sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that element of the surprise and the back and forth. At the one scene where, you piece it together, I just was like, "Oh, what?" Between the scene that wanted me to close my eyes or the scene that was so shocking. Like I think I didn't use this word in the book. I called it in the introduction electrifying tale. It is just riveting. It
Oh,
is
thank you.
it's oh my gosh, like you're definitely there. And I know in the US this is just releasing, but for you in the UK, you're actually working on number two, right?
hmm
Can you give us a little sneak peek into that?
Yeah, I mean, it's completely done. It's coming out in the UK in October. It's actually coming out in the US next March, so guys don't have to wait very long.
Oh, that's so good
Um,
to know. Good.
yeah, but yeah, Be Right Back, which is the sequel, if anyone didn't know. It's another kind of reference to horror movies, like you're not supposed to let split up and you're not supposed to say, I'll be right back, because you very rarely are. Um, yeah, I think for this one, when my publisher approached me to do it, because originally we weren't going to do a sequel, and then with the response of Let's Split Up, we were just like, okay, we've got to do this. And I had ideas, but I was a little hesitant. I had to think about, okay, if I'm going to do a sequel, I want it to feel warranted. I feel like a lot of the times, I don't want to say cash grabs, but they could be forced, and I wanted to make sure I had something to say. So I sat down and worked throughout, and with like the political climate of the world, it very quickly came to me, okay, this is going to be the theme. This is what I want to say. And it made a lot of sense for where these characters would be at a year later. Um, so basically, Be Right Back is set a year after basically the events of Let's Split Up. And they're in Sonera again, the town, and there's this the inaugural Hallowed Fall Fest where there's everyone's in costumes. There's some certain suspicious people back in town, and how do I describe this? I haven't had to do this yet. Um, and things are not as it seems in the sense that there's the there's people in costumes and you don't know what's going on, and then people turn up dead. And I will say as well, we're not just confined to Sonera anymore, which has been really fun. It's a lot bigger in scope, and I'm really excited to see how people react to it.
Oh, I'm excited for that. I'm surprised. Like this is very high praise, Bill, for me to say I am surprised. I am looking forward to a genre like this that would scare me because I really do feel so attached to these characters. Like I cannot wait to see what comes next. And in the release of the book, at least here in the US, there is some edging, right? And some coloring on
Yeah.
the spine. Tell us about that. That's my favorite. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, we got to do it in the UK. There's a retailer called The Works here, and they were like, it was a couple months before release, and I found out they were going to do it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yes.
And then it kind of like took off here, and it's why the book I think gained some traction in the first place. And I remember it was like a couple of days after release, the book had sold out everywhere. You couldn't get it. It went for a second print run in like 3 days. It was wild. And I think the US saw that and like, yes, copy, paste.
Yes.
So it's a very similar edge, but we've got it's a bit darker and it looks great. So it is available for the entire print run, first print run, wherever you want to pre-order or buy it. So if you like the look of it, yeah, I'm super excited about it. I can't wait to see it in person.
Yeah. So how must all of that have felt? Like to just hear you say like how quickly it was such a success and the print runs, like how do it's probably a stupid question. You probably feel great, but I would love to know like how do you feel looking back at, the career and knowing that that film career brought you exactly to where you need to be to write something so enjoyable and moving. Like how do you feel in this moment with all of this going on?
I mean, it feels great. I mean, I think for a debut, especially, it's really nerve-wracking because um, I'm like very one of the lucky ones where the first book is a success. I think for a lot of authors,
Yeah.
it's not the case. They're 10 books in and they're still struggling. And yeah, I feel very, very privileged to be in this position. It's just amazing just hearing from people. They'll DM me. I've had emails from like parents whose kids have loved the book. It's gone back into reading, and that's what really does it for me. It just, I mean, having a little brother as well, I think that really just pushes me to write more. Like, it's so hard to explain, but yeah, it's really gratifying, and it's been such a great year. Um, but also it also adds like a pressure. I was like, okay, the sequel's got to do better. But then
Right.
I'm also like, okay, well, a sequel historically never does as well as the first book because they've got to read the first one anyway. But then they're like, okay, when you do something outside of the Let's Split Up series, like what's going to happen then? And I think it's that eternal imposter syndrome that I feel like every author feels. But for the most part, I've had an absolute blast and I've just loved meeting so many people.
Oh, that's great. It feels like as you're talking, that you're almost coming back full circle to those years that you abandoned reading a little bit, that you were
Mm,
feeling badly about. This book is going to hook that age level
for
and
sure.
be the
Yeah.
book that's going to keep them there or get them back faster than perhaps you did. So what a wonderful gift when you think back on how all of that ties together.
Definitely. Yeah, I agree.
Oh, so as you think about this book coming to the US and knowing you have your second one coming out in the UK soon, what is your hope for the book or for readers who pick it up on either side of the world?
Oh, I mean, I hope they have fun. I think
Yeah.
even though there is the scares, I think it is I want to almost say it's kind of light-hearted. Like it's nothing
Man.
too serious. Obviously, it's got its spooks and its scares, but it is at its core just like a fun book about friendship, like
Mhm.
friends going to the library to solve a mystery. And I want people to almost feel nostalgic, I guess, reading it. Even I mean, I'm 24, so I was like zero in the 90s. But I think I just grew up with so much of that media that I feel like really connected with it. Um, but yeah, I just want people to have fun, like as silly as that sounds. And um also if you're into what's the how do I say if you're like into that sort of mystery horror vibe, this is kind of that. But maybe if you don't want to watch the horror movies yet, this could be a kind of a stepping stone, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. You say like it might sound silly, but you just want them to have fun. I think that's everything. I think right now in the world, we all just deserve to have something that feels good and a little bit of
Yeah.
an escape and something that helps us just feel better, right?
Hmm.
And I think, like you said, your book does that. You can get scared by it, but it is like you said, a lighthearted, it's a story of friendship. Every reader will find something that they can sink into here. Um, and I think you're gonna be, no, I know it's gonna be just as much of a hit here in the US as it is in the UK. And I'm so glad to be part of your launch. So I really appreciate you coming to chat with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. I've had such a lovely time speaking with you.
Oh, good. Now, where's the best place for people to find you online so they can follow you in the next books that are coming?
I am probably the most active on my TikTok at Bill Reads, but you can also grab me on Instagram at Bill Reads lol because Bill Reads was taken. And then also my website is billwood.co.uk.
Okay. So I'll put links to those in the show notes, and listeners know I'll have links to the books there as well, to make it easy for people to find you. Thank you again. This is such a fun conversation. I loved the book. Listeners, you're going to love it just as much too. And again, thanks for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Welcome. And listeners, thank you for listening to another episode of KidLit Love, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the KidLit Love podcast. You'll find links to all of the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. You'll also find KidLit Love on Substack. That's where you'll find posts for each episode, monthly KidLit roundups, and an invitation to join my summer book club and go deeper into the world of children's literature. And if you loved this podcast and want more, you might like to listen to my other podcast called Get Literate. It's a podcast that explores all things books and reading, notebooks and writing to build a life you love. One more thing. If you loved what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast, or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish community of Kid Lit Love. Thanks for listening.